What's up everybody, Unrested back again, and gonna start this video out with a quick shout out to gaijinpot.com. That's GAIJINPOT.com. If you don't know that website, that is a great website for all sorts of living in Japan, touring in Japan, going on guided tours in Japan, meeting people in Japan, or getting a job in Japan type website. It's pretty much everything you can do Japan for Gaijin. The entire site's in English, but you can switch it over to Japanese if you're a Japanese person. So if you're interested in a career in possible translation, localization, other things like that, and you're a Japanese person, you want to take a look at it, don't be afraid of the language barrier. You can switch the language on it as well. So great little website. You should check it out. And the reason I'm shouting it out today is because a couple days ago they posted my video on working at schools in Japan. One of my friends actually works there. I'm not sure exactly what his position is there. I don't want to assume anything as far as people's jobs or put their title on the internet too much, but his name's Anthony. I think that's not a very common name to be rare, so there's a lot of Anthonys out there, so I'm not too worried about me giving away his ID. He's got a podcast too called Tokyo Podcasts, and I've been on that a couple times, I think 2 times now, if I'm correct, and that's also a really fun little show. You can check it out. I think he has a YouTube channel called just Tokyo Podcasts. At the very least, I'm sure if you do a search for Tokyo Podcasts in the podcast, you should definitely click onto that, like it, subscribe, and check it out, because it's got a lot of great information, and he is very to the point when he interviews and gets you the information that you want as far as different subjects you're looking for on Japan. It's a lot like JFAQ in the sense that it covers multiple aspects of living in Japan, dealing with certain aspects of Japan, a lot like Just Japan, Busan Kevin's podcast. So if you're interested in that, you should also check that out. So I'm giving them a shout out today because also I'm going to start as of today a little bit of a series connected to Gaijin Pot. And the reason I'm doing this is not only to help them out, but to help you out as people who often write me about applying to jobs in Japan. One of the biggest questions, or I guess maybe one of the biggest disappointments people have about applying in Japan is when they apply, they find themselves either not finding a job that will hire them, or not finding there's enough jobs to apply to, or that they've come at a bad time to apply for jobs. I think one thing you've really got to understand about Japan is that the end of the fiscal year is in April. If you come here in April, you're pretty much reaching the very end of the hiring season. Your best bet is to apply before April. I know April's coming up very soon right now, so if your plan was to come here after that and apply to jobs, be ready to find little to nothing left over. It is super important that you start getting crazy about applications. I would say as soon as Christmas ends, as soon as the new year is started, that's when you want to really get crazy about applying. Hitting up everything and anything you can, sending your resumes everywhere, and making sure to include a cover letter as well. And those are 2 more subjects I'm going to get into in later JFAQs. I'm actually going to do one on cover letters and one on resumes, because another thing Anthony said to me was that I think we both agreed on this, was that sometimes we're a little bit surprised by I don't want to slam anybody by saying they're unprofessional, but let's say the inexperience of people's resume writing skills. For example, a resume is not a list of your hobbies or favorite things. Those can be on there, but that should be one of the last things at the very bottom. So we'll talk a little bit about that, like what people are looking for on a CV or resume in Japan. And but first of all, today I just want to really talk about April, the deadline for applying to jobs in Japan. If you're really thinking about starting a career in Japan, really thinking about teaching in Japan, you need to think about getting here in time that you've had at least 3 or 4 months to apply to multiple jobs before April comes around. If you get here after April, pretty much the jobs that you're going to see that are left over are the jobs that either nobody wanted, or that pay really bad, or that the work hours are stupid, insane, or it's just not a very good deal. Like, no matter what people think about the salaries given in Japan, which tend to be pretty decent for an English teacher, outside of Okinawa, which has pretty poor pay scales as far as English teaching is concerned, but the mainland has pretty decent. I'd say you get anywhere from, on average, about 2,000 upwards to 3,000 you can make a month, which, I mean, if you're living on your own in even Tokyo, 3,000 would be pretty decent to survive on. 2,000 you'd be struggling a little bit, but you'd still make it. If you go as low as 1,500, which I have seen before, you better be working part-time. You better not be working a full 8-hour day, 5 days a week, because you're getting ripped off. But I've seen people try to pull some scammy jobs, some pretty sketchy work. I heard of one English company I had a friend apply to one time, and they didn't list the salary. When he got there for the interview, he found out they paid something like 750 an hour, 750 yen an hour. That is stupid, crazy low. And if a job ever offers you that much, immediately walk out of the interview. Do not stand for pay that low. Anybody who takes the job or helps a company like that survive is supporting horrible, horrible pay for English teaching. That's lower than working at a konbini. Like the konbini next to my house, if you work at night, you can make 1,000 yen an hour, which is like $10 over 700 yen. What do you think is harder, to teach an English lesson or work at a konbini? I mean, let's be realistic here. And not to mention, what's more rare, to find someone who's a Japanese person who can work at a konbini, or to find a gaijin that can work at an English company? You're 1% of the population, guys. Sell yourself, right? You know, there's something like, you know, a very, very low percentage of native English-speaking gaijin in Japan. It is a very, very, it's still extremely low. Sell yourself. You are a rare commodity, and that can keep the pay high for all of us. So never ever settle for a job that low. But that being said, never ever settle for coming to Japan after April, because if you do, like I said, you're left with the scraps. You're left with the jobs nobody wants to work. If you end up getting a job after April and it's like an ALT job where you're put at a really crummy school in the middle of the ghetto, you cannot complain. You've come here and been given like what's thrown off the table. That being said, if you want yourself a high quality job, if you want to get yourself into some of the highest paying, the most competitive, like I said, as soon as January starts, the start of a new year, you need to get yourself out there right away. And you need to be professional, you need to be succinct, you need to be ready to answer stuff. For example, you know, people take a look at me and always say like, well, can you even show up looking like that with your piercings and your tattoos and everything? Do you really think I go to an interview with my tattoos out? Even if I was going to the most liberal company in the world, I would never go with my piercings or tattoos out. These are covered up. I have special plugs that I tape up that make it look like I have just normal ears. You know, obviously I wear long sleeves, cover up all my tattoos. I come dressed in a full suit. If you come in anything less than a full suit in Japan, you're doing it wrong. You can never be too overdressed in Japan. I'm not saying show up in a tuxedo. That's a little bit crazy. You're not getting married. But, you know, you can never be too overdressed. And you can come with, you know, the three-piece suit. You can come with the double-breasted jacket. You know, don't be afraid to really dress yourself up and look really good. You know, I'm not trying to, you know, mock anybody with long hair. I've had long hair. You can look at my old videos. But if you're going to have long hair, put it up in a ponytail. You know, even if you've got long dreads, put those dreads up in a ponytail. You know, come as marketable as you can as a person, to be that every person for them. Yes, okay, I want to be avant-garde. I want to be out there. I want to be edgy. You know, that's my personal lifestyle on the side. But when I come to a job, you are selling you. You are selling who you are, what you can do, your skills, and even your face and the way you look. You need to include a picture on your resume. You need to have a full resume. You need to put only the relevant jobs on your resume, please. I've seen people give me resumes before that have every job they've ever worked since they were like 14. Like, I don't care if you worked at McDonald's. That's cool, man. That's great. I'm really proud you did that. But that doesn't help us out at all with like teaching English. I don't know why you would list non-related jobs. If you've never ever taught anything that has to do with teaching, that's okay. But tell us the closest things you have to teaching. Like, maybe you had a seminar at a company you worked at. Maybe you helped train some people on the side. Maybe you had some community service you did where you had an art school for children. That was something that I did back when I went to a Catholic school in America, I would list something like that where I've taught a classroom full of